So Brian Gutekunst has now been the GM of the Green Bay Packers for the past 6 seasons, taking over back in 2018. And during his first 5 years, he, of course, had Aaron Rodgers leading the Packers, which it's hard to tell when you have a guy of Rodgers' caliber, future Hall of Famer playing at that level, to know, just how good is your GM. I think that you can see different additions that Gutekunst made over the years, and there's no doubt that you need a solid team around a guy, even at the caliber of Aaron Rodgers, to find success. And during that time, during those 5 seasons, the Packers did make it to 2 separate NFC Championship games, even though they lost both of them. The team, I think, had the potential, had the ability to win a Super Bowl, and at times things just don't go your way, and that's what happened for the Packers in those 2 NFC Championship losses. But I think the biggest thing that has now shown Brian Gutekunst to be one of the best GMs in the NFL was his decision to draft Jordan Love, and then for him to pan out and be as good as he was in his first season. But what I want to focus on in this video is an interesting article that came out from ESPN. And basically what they did is they did a 2-round redraft of the 2023 draft class. So if the 2023 draft were to happen today, after now 1 season of seeing all these rookies and how well they played, they redrafted it to see who would go where. And here it is. I saw it on Twitter here from Ike Packers Podcast. They say this: Packers have 6 rookies in the first 2 rounds of ESPN's 2023 NFL Draft redo. Jaden Reed, 34th overall. Lucas Van Ness, 42nd. Luke Musgrave, 45th. Dontavian Wicks, 55th. Carl Brooks, 56th. And Tucker Kraft, 59th. So the Packers only had 3 picks in the first 2 rounds. They used the number 13 pick on Van Ness. ESPN says he'd be 42nd now. I think that with lots of these rookies, you can't really judge him after 1 season. I think that it could be that Van Ness is seen as a solid pick in the next couple seasons. He got some opportunity, but he should get more as the years go by. And I think if you look at guys like Devontae Adams, Rashawn Gary, if you would have redrafted them after 1 season, they probably wouldn't be as high as they were a few seasons later. So I'm fine with that one. Then we have Jaden Reed, 34th. He was actually the 50th pick, so a lot of value there by the Packers. Luke Musgrave was the 42nd pick, so basically they had him a few spots back there. Then some of the biggest values the Packers found in the draft, Brian Gutekunst, of course, leading the charge, was Dontavian Wicks, who was drafted in the 5th round at pick 159. They had him drafted 55th overall, so almost 100 spots before the Packers got him. And we saw just how good Wicks was in his first season, and he took some massive strides forward. I think you could argue that he could be the most talented Packers wide receiver. Then we have Carl Brooks, who was actually a 6th round draft pick number 179. They have him 56th overall. So that is a crazy value the Packers found in the 6th round. And then finally, Tucker Kraft, we got him in the 3rd round, 78th, and they had him 59th. So another solid value there. And I want to take a look at one under-the-radar move by Brian Gutekunst that happened in that draft, which I touched on a little bit after the draft happened. Here were my thoughts and sort of the situation that led to the Packers getting Carl Brooks and Dontavian Wicks. So here it is from my newsletter I shared maybe a year or so ago around the last year's draft. Now here's the most underrated move of the entire draft. After taking Musgrave at number 42, the Packers had pick number 45. They decided to trade back. Here's what I shared on Twitter last night. Brian Gutekunst trading from 45 to 50, which turned into wide receiver Dontavian Wicks and defensive tackle Carl Brooks, is what takes this draft over the top for me, dropping 5 spots, netted the Packers 2 players with massive upside. And so what happened there is Gutekunst traded back from 45 to 48, which got him the 5th rounder, which they used on Dontavian Wicks. So only moving back 3 spots, basically got them Dontavian Wicks. Then they moved back from 48 to 50 with a trade with the Buccaneers, which netted them a 6th rounder, which turned out to be Carl Brooks, and then they still got Jaden Reed at number 50. So instead of sitting at 45, they could have potentially taken Jaden Reed at that point. Instead, he moves back only 5 spots and gets Dontavian Wicks and Carl Brooks. So I think that has to be one of the greatest draft maneuvers that there is, to see just the value the Packers got. And now the fact that people around the NFL, the people who did this ESPN redraft, see those guys as, basically 2nd round picks. And so the fact the Packers were able to do that is huge, and I think sort of shows even more so why Brian Gutekunst is very good at what he does. And I think when you look at the Packers' future, they are set up to succeed, not only because of the success they had and the great picks they had in this past 2023 draft, but the fact that Brian Gutekunst was willing to trade away Aaron Rodgers, bring in some other draft picks with that trade, and then be willing to bet that Jordan Love can be the guy. I think that if Jordan Love came in 2023 and wasn't successful, that many would look down upon Brian Gutekunst because he took Jordan Love at a time when Aaron Rodgers was still playing, at a top tier level. If Love wouldn't have panned out, people would have said, well, he could have taken a different player, a wide receiver, someone who would have helped Rodgers at that time, maybe get them over that hump, maybe get them to a Super Bowl. But now looking back, the fact that he did that, was willing to do it, has set this Packers team up for success for the next 10 to 15 years. And so I think that Brian Gutekunst deserves a ton of credit. I think that he is one of the best GMs in the NFL. But that is pretty much all I wanted to share in this video. If you want more Packers content like this, feel free to subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys next time.